consider just hold it. What's your discretion? Which one is that again?
All right.
I didn't want to say anything. But I have noticed that. Is it that drops in the
They're trying. I need to tell her that. I'm sitting up here.
Sorry?
You know, see this?
Okay. Yes.
Did I tell you I had dry eye?
Good to go.
That's why I'm always up here with tissue.
You got eye drops to wear
I got everything to wear.
Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 28th, 2023 Tarrant County Commissioners Court meeting. I'm now calling the meeting to order. Roll call.
Tim O'Hare, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Cruz, Commissioner Precinct 1.
present.
Alyssa Simmons, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Ficus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here, but on his way.
Manny Ramirez, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
All right. Please rise for our invocation and our pledges of allegiance. Our invocation today will be led by Chaplain Wesley McDuffie, and I will lead us in the pledges. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day because we realize it's a day that you made and not we ourselves. We're just blessed to be a part of it. But now that we're here, we pray that you just bless us to be that servant leader that you have always meant for us to be. Father, that you prepared us to be our brother's keeper, to watch over each and every one of us, each and every day. But Father, as we move forward, we ask your blessings upon this court. We ask your blessings upon the judge and upon each and every one of the commissioners that are here today, Lord, that you will continue to bless them to lead us in the path that you would have us to go. But Lord, there's so much sickness among us. There's so many deaths. Lord, I pray for those that are yet still sick and those that are still mourning deaths. Lord, you're the only one that can heal our hearts, and we pray for that this day. But Lord, we pray that whatever takes place this day, that you will be glorified. It's in Jesus' name I pray and ask it all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Please join us in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Judge,
Thank you. You may be seated, sir.
Judge, I don't always all the way to the mic because there's rules concerning my space. They will explain it.
Well, we were not missing the need for a mic there, so you're good. All right, thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay. GK, do we have any agenda announcements?
Yes, sir, we do. Okay. So, members of the court, we have several announcements relating to the agenda today. The first is under the administrator section. We do have an audience participation form on item A5, which is a consent item, so we're going to remove that from the consent agenda. Also on A6, which is the First Amendment to the WASI grant, we're going to hold that for 1 week. We need to clarify some elements within the contract itself, so we're going to hold that. Under facilities management, item F3, this is change order 11, it relates to the construction of our juvenile center. We're going to remove that from consent. I believe that that one of the court members has a question about that particular one, so we're going to remove that from consent. Also under Human Resources, item G2, this is the TO change for Public Health. Once again, it's a consent item. We're going to remove that for comment by the court. Also, members of the court, we are going to have several presentations today on briefing, and these should take about a total of about 30 minutes to do that. Also, finally, wanted to mention two things. First of all, as we move into the month of April, this is going to be the beginning of our every other Tuesday court meetings. And so we'll start on the 4th. We have put out a document to all the departments and elected officials on how they are going to, the timeline to bring in their materials to come before court. What that'll also allow us to do is to be able to give you the court materials a few days sooner than we have. That way give your staffs to take a good look at it also. And then, also on the 4th, what we intend to do is to begin our discussions with you all concerning homestead exemptions. We promised that we would do that in April, and the 4th is the first Tuesday in April. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, sir. All right, Commissioners Court announcements. Anybody have anything? Anything? Okay, seeing none. Approval of the minutes. Do we have any corrections or amendments or a motion to make on approval of the minutes?
Move for approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes. We have a second. Any discussion? All right, cast your vote. It passes. Gary, do you want to vote on this?
No.
All right, it passes unanimously. The minutes are approved. Next up, we do have a couple of proclamations and resolutions. The first one is about Katie Junebug, June Kirkland Day. Commissioner Ramirez.
Yes, over the weekend I had the honor of attending a celebration of life for one of our 18-year-old community members who lost her life in White Settlement last year. She was asleep in her home whenever a drunk driver crashed into her house and killed her and then injured her father. Her father and mother were both educators in the Mountain Saginaw ISD school district. She was a beautiful young lady, and we lost her way too soon. But the celebration of life was a great event put on by the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD administration and the principal there at Saginaw High School where she attended. And I read this proclamation there, and I would hope that this court would adopt it today. So I'll go ahead and read it. I don't believe anybody from the family is here today, but we had a great ceremony on Saturday. Whereas in Lewisville, Texas, on the 4th day of July in 2004, Katie June Kirkland entered the world into the loving arms of her proud parents, Kevin and Amy Kirkland. And whereas affectionately nicknamed Junebug, she was loved and cherished all the days of her life by her parents, aunt and uncle, grandparents and cousins, as well as numerous extended family members and friends. And whereas Katie was such a bright light to her family, friends, and the world around her, she always brought joy to the people in her life, as well as the lives of others in her school and in her community. And whereas at the early age of 9, Katie became obsessed with painting and drawing, and her love of art became her lifelong passion. And whereas her love for working with animals, playing video games, and watching YouTube videos were just some of her favorite things that just made her happy. And whereas Katie looked forward to her senior year at Saginaw High School in the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, with aspirations of attending Tarrant County College and becoming a graduate of architecture from Texas Tech. And whereas Katie will always be known for being dedicated, expressive, clever, quick-witted, she was creative in everything she did and kind to everyone around her. And whereas Katie Junebug June Kirkland loved thinking about the world around her in ways she could make it better, indeed she accomplished that very thing just by being in this world for 18 memorable years. And now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim March 25th, 2023, as Katie Junebug June Kirkland Day, in honor and celebration of her life. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 25th day of March, 2023. I would move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you for bringing that to us, and R.I.P. Katie. Terrible, terrible. All right, next we have recognition of Tarrant County departments for the 2022 United Way campaign.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come before the court this morning. I do appreciate your time. Mr. Manius, I also appreciate your time. I know you have a full agenda, so I'm going to do my best to make this quick and at least fun. So every year, we host an annual United Way campaign in the fall, and we have a friendly competition between our departments. And this time of year, what we do is we take the time to honor those departments who have done outstanding work. We honor the top 3 departments in 3 categories. And those categories this year are increase over last year. To be eligible to win that category, you have to do at least $1,000 the year prior, our outstanding campaign, and our per capita giving. So we will be honoring those departments that have done outstanding in those 3 areas. But before I do go any further, we do have a special guest this morning in our audience that I do want to take the time to acknowledge. Leslie Atkinson, if she wants to stand up. She is the Vice President of Development for United Way of Tarrant County. She's also our Tarrant County rep. And she does have a special thank you gift for the department. So before you leave, if possible, we'd like to make sure that you guys do get that gift. And we'll try to do it also while we're taking pictures. So let's talk about this campaign, and I'm going to see if I can make this clicker work this morning. So there it is. Our theme this year was Get United, and hopefully on the screens, or if you're in the offices and you're watching, hopefully you can see this too. You can see all the fabulous ways that our departments got united. We had some incredible department functions. We had obviously the ornament sales by Budget and Risk Management, popcorn sales by Transportation. A lot of departments wore jeans. We had bake sales. This year, the admin office introduced some awesome apparel. You guys probably have been seeing that on Friday, along with their tamale sales. And purchasing thought really out of the box this year and created a new campaign and introduced us to Tarrant County's most interesting man. But they sold some logoed glassware that did very well. So we had some fun this year with our campaign, not only with payroll deduction, but with some great ideas and some great functions. So how'd we do? This year, the total dollars raised for the 2022 campaign, we raised $70,231.57. And that gave us a per capita of $15.82. We are growing as a county, that's for sure. So let's talk winners, because I know that's what's filling up this court today, is everybody wants to know who won what and how they did. I'm going to get Sergio Munoz, who's the Assistant Community Resource Coordinator. I'm going to get him to come down, and he's going to take photos. And then I've got Myra Caldera in the Human Resources Department, who's going to also help us pass out our awards. So the first category today is the increase over last year. And as I mentioned, you did have to have $1,000 minimum of your campaign for the year prior. So all of these folks increased their campaign from the year prior, but they did at least $1,000 in campaign year 2021. So our third place winner this year goes to the Tarrant County Clerk, and it is about time. You guys worked super hard, and y'all are spread out. Y'all come on down, and we're going to get a picture of you guys. Y'all did 24% over.
I just want to take one moment to let Aaron Strickland, who runs our land division, he headed up the this event this year, so tell him briefly what you did to make it happen.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Judge, Commissioners. What we did this year, we wanted to do something a little different. We wanted to focus on not necessarily the dollar amount, but the people of giving, and we were hoping that it would speak for itself. So we had this thing on Netflix called The 100. I don't know if you've seen it. That's another story. Anyways, my wife made me watch that. But anyways, it ended up being pretty good. But I used that theme to encourage our clerks, to give. And we made our 100. And that was the best accomplishment that we had through all this. And then, of course, the dollar amount spoke for itself. So that's what we did.
We have 161 employees, and we were able to just promote the 100 because we have 6 initiatives we get behind, and we hit our goal. So that's how we increase. So thank you.
He does 2 pictures, I do 3. So, all right. In second place for increase over last year, it's Tarrant County Information Technology with a 27% increase. You guys come on down. So our first place winner for increase over last year is Tarrant County Public Health. They did 74% over. Another round of congratulations to you guys for increasing your giving. Thank you. Our next category is for outstanding campaign, and this is basically total dollars raised per department. So in third place goes to, come on down, Tarrant County Clerk again. You told us your story. Okay. Okay. I will, and I'll send pictures later, so you bet. In second place goes to Tarrant County Housing, and there is some secret out there that I know Wayne doesn't share because they are here every single year. Come on down. They are here every year and win multiple awards. So congratulations, you guys. And the first place winner for outstanding campaign goes to Tarrant County Administrator's Office. Awesome. It was all tamales and t-shirts. Tamales and t-shirts. So, yep.
Yes. I didn't know we had that many employees.
Where's the fearless leader?
These are the guys that did the work.
They introduced our new logo on some new apparel, and that was fabulous. I mean, $7,523. Y'all did great. So our next category is per capita giving. And so in third place this year goes to, and I think this happens every year, Tarrant County Budget and Risk Management. Y'all come on down at $133. do a great job with those ornament sales. So if you haven't gotten one, you need to start your collection definitely this year. So they do an amazing job every year. Our second place winner for per capita giving goes to the Tarrant County Administrator's Office. Y'all come on back down. No photos.
Fills up some space.
Okay, we'll do that. We got you covered. Okay, so, but I think this first place winner is probably going to want a picture. So per capita giving for in first place goes to Tarrant County Housing. All right, no picture. But again, one of these days we're going to find out what Wayne does, because every single year. So a big round of applause to these are the top 3 departments in our category winning. But we do every year introduce what we call Leadership Spirit Award. There's always that department that does a little bit above and beyond, thinks outside of the box, and maybe, the thing is they just don't make it. They just don't make one of the top 3 categories. But you know what? They work really hard, they've got some hustle, and they're creative. And this year, that Leadership Spirit Award goes to Tarrant County Purchasing. And if you didn't get a chance to do it, I hope y'all bring this back. The logo glassware was outstanding. And the way that you advertised your logo glassware was quite interesting. Yay. So, but anyway, whatever it did, it certainly worked for you guys. I just want to tell you, they went from a campaign of $25 to, and I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see, they went from a campaign of $25 to $2,348.45 just from doing what they did. So congratulations.
All right, well done by all. Do we have one more?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Well, it's, I do want to take a time to, we have what we call the Spirit of Collaboration Award. For the past 3 years, the staff on the Commissioners Courts have gotten together and held an online auction. And it's always run by Catherine Rotter. I'm trying to look where you are. So she coordinates everybody's staff and puts on this online auction, and it's fabulous. There are just amazing, amazing items. And I do want to announce that this year, the Spirit of Collaboration, which you all have your award at your desk, you guys raised $10,844. Just gives me the opportunity to say thank you, y'all. I have a wonderful job to be able to work with your staff. I work very closely with them on many, many projects, this being one of them, and they are fabulous, fabulous folks. They work their tail ends off, and they just do a great job. It's always a pleasure, and again, a pleasure to work with Catherine, especially on this project. We work pretty close to it. So, and that's a great amount. That $10,844 went really far with our $70,000 that we raised this year. So thank you very much for allowing them to work with us on the United Way campaign. So with that, though, I would like to say thank you to everyone who participated across the county in this year's United Way campaign, whether they bid on an item on the auction, or they organized a fundraiser, or they donated through payroll deduction. Just as a reminder that all of those funds do go to a great organization, and that organization benefits families, they benefit children, they benefit women, they benefit veterans, they benefit senior citizens, and they help these people have a much better life than what they started out with. So thank you all for your time today. I appreciate it very much. Again, Mr. Manning, thank you. So I hope you'll have a great day.
Thank you very much. All right, next up is our consent agenda. We have removed items A, 5, and 6, F3, and G2. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with those deletions?
Move approval.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, it passes unanimously. All right, next up would be, I believe, item A1.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court. As everyone knows, the Commissioners Court developed and funded the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center last year using ARPA monies. And at the point of it being, actually it happened in 2021. And at that time, we only allowed criminal mischief charges to be brought in to that particular center. There was a meeting of the committee that was held this past Friday, and the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney's Office came forward with some new recommendations as related to those offenses that might qualify to be admitted into that particular center. Besides the criminal trespass, it would be misdemeanor theft, possession of marijuana, disorderly conduct, false report, and a terroristic threat if there was no violence. And the committee reviewed that request to include those, and the committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Brooks, voted unanimously to recommend to the Commissioners Court that those offenses be included into the criteria for entering into the diversion center. Commissioner Brooks, do you have any comments that you might want to make?
Yes, thank you, GK, for laying the predicate for consideration of this item. Expanding the ability of the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center to accomplish its mission in Tarrant County was always a goal of this jail diversion center. We started out with one charge, criminal trespass, and that encompassed a large percentage of the crimes that persons with mental health problems in Tarrant County, particularly the homeless population, commit. But it was always anticipated that we would expand beyond just criminal trespass to a wide array of other non-violent offenses that would be considered for entry into the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center. We reached that point now, partially because of the underutilization of the Jail Diversion Center, and partially because it's just the right thing to do. In addition to expanding the list of charges, there is a recommendation put forth by the Sheriff's Department that we be able to divert persons directly from the county jail to the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center. This is huge because heretofore it depended only upon an arresting officer on the street to bring persons to the Jail Diversion Center. This will allow us transferring people from the jail directly to the diversion center will allow us to catch those persons who were not directly diverted by an officer in the field, but still meet the criteria for diversion. This is huge. Between these two items, the expansion of the list of charges and direct diversion from the county jail to the jail diversion center. And by the way, these persons who will be diverted from the county jail will not have a history of violent charges on their record. These will be huge in helping us actualize the mission of the Jail Diversion Center in Tarrant County and to bring us closer to full capacity use of the Jail Diversion Center and will assist in lowering the jail population. So I move approval of the recommendations from the Mental Health Jail Diversion Advisory Committee. And I congratulate the Sheriff's Department, the Criminal District Attorney's Office, Mental Health, MHMR, the Administrator's Office, the judges, and everyone else who had a hand in making this happen.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the recommendations made in the letter to our committee from Sheriff Wayburn. We have a second, and as far as discussion goes, so I'm a recent appointee to that committee, and I had a couple of questions. One, on this added list of charges that could still apply for someone going to the diversion center. Let me say first, most of the folks that are going there are homeless with pretty significant mental illnesses, and one of them was disorderly conduct. And so I asked, does that have anything to do with any sexual behavior, any lewd conduct along those lines? The answer to that was no. I also asked about terroristic threat. If there's no violence, how can you have a terroristic threat where there is no violence? And the best example that was given was these are kind of off-the-wall threats made by people who may be paranoid schizophrenic or some other serious mental disease where it's not serious. It could be about aliens or anything of the sort. So it passed in the committee unanimously. The district attorney's office is on board. The sheriff's department is on board. The sheriff's chiefs are on board, and MHMR are on board. So looks like it'll be a good thing to do. Those are my comments. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from the court before we have our speakers?
I would say, first I'd applaud the committee for getting together and acting so swiftly. I know we've met with a lot of community groups that had a lot of interest in making sure that we were doing the best thing for all Tarrant County citizens. And I know that group worked very swiftly once we started focusing on expanding the use. I think the most impactful recommendation here is not going to be the expanded charges accepted, but the ability for our sheriff's department to transfer them directly from the jail to the diversion center. I think that'll be more impactful than the expansion. I did have a couple of concerns similar to the judge about misdemeanor theft and terroristic threat. All the other crimes can be described as victimless or crimes against society, but in a theft and a terroristic threat, there has to be a victim. Someone whose property was stolen or someone who felt threatened to make that report. Those were the two concerns that I had. Now knowing how the criteria is going to be considered and used, I think that we can get there, and I think that it's going to be responsibly managed, and intake is going to be responsibly managed. But like I said, my number one priority in looking at the list was to make sure that we're doing the right thing for public safety. That has to be the lens at which we view all of these things, and victims have to be a concern also. But if the crimes do not have victims here in Tarrant County, and we can get there and make sure that we're using this resource that we've put in place and we're committed to funding, then we have to do everything in our power to make it successful. And I think this is a step in the right direction. So Again, I applaud the committee for the work that you did, and I'm very supportive of all these recommendations.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I too appreciate the committee's work on this. I too am concerned about the terroristic threat category, but hearing the judge's the description or explanation you were given, I'll go with that for now. And so my other question for the committee, and I think we heard a little bit about this during the briefing, is are we reaching out to these local police departments?
We will continue to reach out to the local police agencies, of which there are 38, 39 in Tarrant County.
Actually,
40
with all the different ones, there, it's
Schools,
up to the
yeah.
mid 40s, mid to upper 40s now.
40?
There's 41 municipalities, then you have the universities, and the school system has their.
Yeah, and JPS has a police agency,
Right.
and so does DFW Airport. So there are probably more than 40. We will continue to reach out to those police agencies and continue to work with the command staffs of those agencies so that they assure their officers below them in their chains of command that not only is diversion to the jail diversion center acceptable, it is encouraged behavior. This is what we want them to do, and we stand ready to provide the training that these officers in the field need in order to make an appropriate decision to divert and to make them comfortable that once having made that decision to divert, they will suffer no consequences from their command staffs for having made those decisions.
I know that's been one of the largest concerns for all the independent agencies that were going, was that it was left to independent officer discretion. And there was no real guidance or training on how to accomplish the goal. But that's why I say I think the second item on the recommendation list of having us allowed the ability to go from the jail to the diversion center, I think that'll be a little more impactful. Because like I said, anytime it's left up to discretion, that's going to be difficult to shift the boat that quickly. This has only been in existence for a year.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure that the culture around diversion changes.
Yes.
But both these things work together. It's a both and, not an either or.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second to approve the recommendations in the letter. We do have some folks signed up to speak to it. If you still wish to do so, the first is Merle Glasscock. And while we're here, Commissioners, our office has received a handful of requests to be able to hear better. So if you are inclined, could you move your microphones closer? You cannot hear some of you on the audio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Merle Glasscock, a member of Broadway Baptist Church. I am not here on Broadway's behalf. My comments are
Excuse me, Merle, would you pull that? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Today, I ask you to vote on what you have just discussed. This would be a momentous day. I ask you to allow admittance to the diversion center for more than criminal trespass, as well as allow admittance to the diversion center from the jail. Your consideration quickly as you decide to vote, I hope in a positive manner, will be so much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Doreen Geiger.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you for the work you have put in to make these changes possible. Thank you, and we all hope that it becomes as successful as we wish. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Becky DeLon.
I was so happy to read the paper last week, and I've been so proud since I did, hearing that you were even considering this. I want to thank you so much for all you've done to make this happen. Today's decision was about appropriate decisions where our police department and courts make thoughtful and smart choices that are purposeful in reaching outcomes that provide what is best for everyone concerned. Our courts and jail need not reflect an us and them society where they either punish people who are different and serve people they deem worth serving, but rather protect everyone they encounter everywhere, even when it's protecting them from themselves. Commissioner Ramirez, I want to be clear that I am not advocating that people with mental illness should never be incarcerated. People with mental illness can and do commit crimes that call for their being responded to as a public threat and removed from society so they cannot threaten or abuse others. What we've been addressing here is people with mental illness who are not a threat to others and who need help to manage their lives. People who are victims themselves of poverty, the opportunity to make good choices, the absence of resources, and most importantly, they are victims of their own minds. Today, you chose to serve all of Tarrant County. I commend you. I thank you. Thank you.
All right, next we have Harriet Harrell.
What an exciting time. And how nice for you all to be hearing a whole lot of thank yous, which you may not always get. With this opportunity to expand the list of charges and the transfer of persons from the county jail to the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center, you are on the brink of helping numerous people with mental health issues avoid unnecessary incarceration, of making it possible for people with mental health issues to get appropriate help, of reducing the number of people living on the streets, of impacting jail overcrowding, and of building a stronger county. We are so proud of the work of the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center Advisory Committee. Commissioner Brooks, thank you for your leadership. We are grateful as well to the sheriff, the criminal DA, and to MHMR. As you all well know, the Broadway Justice Committee and its partners has been talking to you for some time now about expanding access to the center, and you have come up with creative solutions to do so. This is a testament to the power of collaboration across county departments with social service agencies, to searching for how to make something good happen instead of giving up in the face of obstacles, to sticking with it over the long haul. So thank you for your persistence and your vision. For months, we've been talking to you about the Harris County model of diversion, and I now believe that Tarrant County can become the model for appropriate and effective diversion from incarceration of people with mental health issues. I expect people to start coming to you to learn how to do this. And so I am encouraging you to vote an enthusiastic and unanimous yes to expand the list of charges and the transfer of persons from the county jail to the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center. And the Broadway Justice Committee and partners will celebrate with you when you do. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the court? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, the recommendation passes unanimously. Next up is A2.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve an advanced funding agreement between the county and TxDOT as it relates to the funding for the Texas Department of Transportation IH-20 bridge. That would be the Bentley Bridge. You might remember that last week we accepted $253,053 from the developer to do enhanced illumination. And we are serving as a pass-through entity, so now we're taking that $253,000 and moving it over to TxDOT. We're requesting your approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval on agenda item A2. Any discussion?
Just a general comment that when we talk about public-private partnership and making sure that all stakeholders are at the table, this is a prime example. So I'm happy to support this one.
All right,
I'm happy to host this project in Precinct 1.
All right, anybody else happy over anything? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. All right, passes unanimously. Next up, item A3.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, as it relates to item A3, we are going to remove the request for travel for community development on this particular item. And we're requesting now that the court approve the out-of-state travel request as delineated in your court communication absent community development.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and approval to approve the out-of-state travel requests, excluding the first one that's removed. Any discussion?
There is a...
We have an audience participant.
Oh, we sure do. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, the speaker for this is LaVon Cockrell.
Hey, good morning, Judge O'Hare. So I think I'm here on the right day, right, for this one. Commissioner Brooks and Simmons, Lucas, and thank you so much for the last vote. I'm crying a little bit from that, and so I am going to get through this, but because I was hoping there was going to be some time, but I'm so excited about that and so proud of you for doing that. My worry today is still about the sheriffs heading to Washington, D.C., and I have three concerns. The lack of an agenda of learning. The worry the agenda includes an Oath Keeper connected learning program, and the reason for so many to attend. And my first concern as an educator who never got to go to conferences after 31 years, there just wasn't the money for that. The complete lack of an agenda or syllabus that we can read so that we know what classes are attending. And then the follow-up that should happen, which would be they come back and tell us what they learned, how they're going to apply it into their work life. And then a 6-month and 12-month follow-up, did it take? Did that expenditure of $25,000 take? And could we have gotten that learning closer to town? I think Judge O'Hare, you spoke about that one time with the IT people. So we do have this cost down from $27,375 to $23,745, unless I inverted numbers there. But anyway, so that's my concern is there's no syllabus, no agenda. I can't find it. Maybe you are aware of it, can tell me about it. But I don't see what they're doing in the 6 days. They have, my second concern is this hidden agenda. Sheriff Wayburn, we know, attended 2 Oath Keeper member sponsored trainings in 2021 and 2022. And that is a misdirection of that constitutional sheriff concept that is counter to established law in our country. Thomas Torling-Cassie alerted you to this. I know we have 3 commissioners, so you may not know that, but that was one of his issues. And so I worry about that, and my third concern is that the fees and funds that are paying for this came from criminal offenders. This comes out of a fund called Fees and Funds Related to Criminal Offenses. And I think those funds should be used for rehabilitation of those criminals so that we need fewer sheriffs. Because if we can rehabilitate our criminals, then we don't need we don't need so many officers on the streets because we have better behaved people, civilians. So the two things that they're planning to attend is to memorialize Deputy Sheets, which is great. Why we have to do it in a far, far, far away city is interesting. And the other is to attend an award ceremony for for one of our deputies. Anyway, those are my concerns. I know you're going to vote on this either way, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have a couple of comments or questions. I'd like to see the justification for sending 12 sheriff staffers to D.C., particularly in light of the vacant positions that we've got. Of course, we've got the in-custody deaths. I think we had 2 last week. I'd rather see the funds spent on sending the family members of the deputy that we're memorializing and also the family of the award winner. Are we spending this amount of money on recruiting events, not in-town recruiting events, but recruiting events in other localities? So just that's my concern. We've got at our last report 271 vacant positions in the sheriff's office, 204 detention officer vacancies, 39 deputy sheriff vacancies. And since I've been receiving these reports since January 9th, the vacancies have just increased in both those categories. So.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Commissioners Court. So first of all, just let me explain a little bit about this event. Each year, as some of you know, the Sheriff's Office attends, the Honor Guard attends Police Week in Austin, Texas, and in Washington, D.C. That's where the ceremonies are held. This year, because we had so many events involving our office in Washington, D.C., Chaplain McDuffie opted not to take the Honor Guard to attend the events and the training in Austin. We're only going to D.C. this year. Police Week is actually put on by COPS and the FOP, which is Concerns for Police Survivors, and the Fraternal Order of Police. These ceremonies are specifically for law enforcement and the families of fallen officers. All week long, the Honor Guard will train with various Honor Guards throughout the nation, and they will stand guard and escort families in various events. We have particular assignments. Each agency, and this is an honor to be involved in these in either Austin or D.C. If your Honor Guard and your agency is involved as part of the ceremonies, that is an honor for an agency. They have special assignments. Our Honor Guard and many of our officers, they are part of offboarding all the families that come that have lost officers across the nation. When they arrive in the hotel that first morning, they take care of everything with those families. In addition to that, they will escort families of fallen officers to the various ceremonies. This year, we also have our own deputy, Deputy Sheets, who will be honored, and his name will go on the wall. That's part of the ceremonies that's involved. In addition to that, we have a deputy that was nominated for Top Cop, which is a national award. He was nominated for this for his heroic behavior in an event that was the shootout in last June out here in Tarrant County. He pulled 3 people from the line of fire. He was nominated for Top Cop. Honor Guard will also be involved in many different events throughout that week. So all of these funds, the funds that pay for this travel each year, come from LEOS funds and forfeiture funds. And there was a correct comment about those funds coming from the criminals, but they are not able, these funds are not used for rehabilitation of criminal activity or criminals. They are specifically used for law enforcement purposes and law enforcement training, and that's what we use each year for these events. They don't come from the general fund. They come from those particular funds to send these officers. This year, the reason that we have more than we would typically have in either Austin or DC is because we do have so many things that we are part of this year, in the honoring of a deputy going on the wall and of the honoring of a nominee for top cop and the additional honor guard training and events.
How large is the honor guard?
Chaplain McDuffie?
Was that question again?
How large is the honor guard?
Honor Guard at present is about 28 members.
Okay. Okay.
Is that your questions? So he doesn't do it for this reason, but I think we should all recognize and appreciate Ross Perot Jr. Sends his plane and fills his plane up with, I think, holds about 100 people and takes many officers and their families, including some of ours, are going up at no cost to the taxpayers. So thank you to Mr. Perot for that. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we do have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. All right, that passes unanimously. All right, next up is an item removed from consent agenda with a speaker, and that's A5.
So members of court, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve FY23 professional services contracts for those entities that are listed in your court communication. Just a quick note, this is something that we have approved during the budget process, and these are the contracts that will distribute those funds. Each one of those entities provides services that the county has historically provided. The philosophy that the court has used in the past is that we would like to always see if there are nonprofits that can do that particular service also, and that's what this is. So staff is requesting approval.
I just have one comment, and that is that these contracts are a recognition of the fact that government can't do everything by itself. We need community partners to join hands with us to help us accomplish the building of a better Tarrant County. And that's what this is about.
All right, any other comments or discussion or motion?
I would move approval.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
item A5. We have a second.
There is a speaker.
Any further discussion?
There is a speaker.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
All right, our speaker is Daniel Bennett. Oh, he's got two written.
That's public comment. That's for later on TAD.
Okay.
I just, it says TA. I should have said TAD.
Okay, all right,
For
go
public
ahead.
comment.
Yeah, it's two.
Commissioner Brooks, to your point, I do want to mention one thing. The Wise Summit Police Department and Chief Cook was at the ceremony for Katie, and I really appreciate Wise Summit stepping up and honoring her. The reason I took this off the consent agenda is to speak to Commissioner Brooks' point, which he basically stole my thunder. But here's the second half of that coin. Within every contract, including item 4, there's 10 total. Some are nonprofit, some are professional service agreements. It states on line 12 in the contract, must submit to the county a final report as to the outcomes achieved within 60 days, the end of the requested funding year, which is annotated to be November 30th in those contracts. So they must give a report to the county on their successes. And to my point about the AIDS Outreach Center, I wasn't trying to be belligerent. I wasn't trying to question the outcomes of 75% reduction in AIDS HIV transmission. But we need to be able to measure these outcomes. We need to be able to report to the public, are we being successful with this particular professional agreement, or this nonprofit, or this agency, whomever it may be. And since these reports are available at the end of the funding period, I wish Mr. GK would stick on the agenda as an informational item, going through each agency that gets our money, and let's celebrate their successes. I think the public would love to hear it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve agenda item A5. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, that passes unanimously. And GK item A6 is removed altogether, not just off consent.
That's correct.
Okay.
We'll bring that back next week.
All right, next up is then our auditor, item B1.
Yes, we have one item this morning. We're asking the court to consider receiving and filing the cash count report for the sheriff's office. You have the sheriff's response attached, and I know there's an agenda item later that addresses this audit. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Move to receive and file.
All right, we have a motion to receive and file the auditor's report for the Cache County Sheriff's Office. We have a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Next up, I believe we would have item F3. Come on up and tell us about F3 for a second.
Absolutely. Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court.
All right.
We're requesting approval of change order number 11 to the Steele Freeman and Post L Group LLC construction management contract related to the Juvenile Center project included in the 2006 CHIP program.
Okay, so if I say anything incorrect here, please let me know. So the original guaranteed maximum price in this contract was $41 million and change.
That is correct.
We've now had 11 different change orders, including this one, and now we have a max price of $44 million.
That is correct.
So what I guess what's the purpose of having a max price if it keeps going up one after another after another?
We've had a total, Judge, of 177 proposed changes for this project. And what happens is we start the project and we get going. There'll be unknown conditions that are unknown to us as we start the project.
Like
it could be when they start doing the dirt, they find something underneath the ground that we have to remediate, have to take care of. The drawings, maybe there's something that showed maybe there was supposed to be a certain system, and now as they actually go out to get that system is reached, it's obsolete, and now it's no longer available, so we have to switch systems. There are some items that are considered budget reallocations. We put the money there, we bid them out at a later date, and then see what happens, because on bid day, it wasn't available to enough time to get that budget, so we'll just put in some money in there, bid it later. It could come in higher, it could come in lower. Those could create all kinds of proposed changes for us. There could be usage differences that now we look and we say, hey, this is not going to work, but it is the way it was originally designed. We have to do a little bit of redesign, and then we have to ask the CMAR to provide us with a price for that difference of that work. Sometimes it's plus, sometimes it's minus, etc. So in this particular project, we had 177 of those proposed changes, and they're for various things.
Is that abnormal for a project of this scope?
That's very normal for a project of this
That's normal?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let me say this, if I might. Steele Freeman has done a lot of work for Tarrant County, at least in the years I've been here.
That's correct.
And they have done an exemplary job.
They have, Commissioner.
On their projects. And I know that they have the highest integrity, and I know many of their executives and people, and they have gone way out of the way on a lot of our projects to work with us and accommodate us. So I just wanted to say that about the firm.
That is correct, Commissioner. They are not a firm that's just trying to get more money.
I would extend Commissioner Fickus's remarks also about the Postel Group.
That is correct,
We've
Judge.
gotten a lot of experience with them, and they have always served Tarrant County well.
That is correct. Postel's probably been about 4 projects for us, including the new jail. And then Still Freeman has been on us for 3 sub-courthouses, as well as the juvenile, as well as some other events.
When do you anticipate this project will be complete?
July of this year, sir. That'll be the final substantial completion. We'll have one more proposed change, because what's happening right now, Judge, is as my team meets with them, we're doing a reconciliation. And that's how this was discovered. So there's one more reconciliation coming, and it'll be for credit to get back all the money that's due back to the county. So that 44 that you see right now is going to reduce.
Okay, good to know. All right, thanks, sir. All right, any other questions on item F3? All right, do we already have a motion and a second?
Do we? Move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve item F3 and a second. With no discussion, please cast your vote. All right, it passed unanimously, and thank you, Commissioner Fickus and Brooks, for weighing in on that. All right, next up on the agenda.
Move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
Good morning,
Is
Ms.
the
Cooper.
personnel agenda. So, all right, we have a motion to receive and file the personnel agenda. Any discussion on that? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, it passes unanimously.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Item 2 was removed from the consent agenda. And just to give you a quick overview, with item 2, we're asking approval for changes to the table of organization for public health. As explained in your court communique, the request is for 2 new positions effective March the 29th. The first position will be a refugee nurse navigator, pay grade 72. The second position is an advanced practice provider, pay grade 75. These both positions will be funded under the refugee medical screening grant at a cost of approximately $253,927.
Thank you. So I think probably most people in this room are quite familiar with the fact that my chief of staff and his family were refugees. And so we had some questions together on this. How does public health define refugee? How is it designated?
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court. So it's a federal designation. The federal government has a resettlement program, and they have a company or nonprofit organization, USCRI, that works with them. So it's the definitions that they provide, and they designate who are to be considered refugees into the country, and they're resettled all across the nation, including here in Tarrant County. So their program defined people that are resettled within Tarrant County.
Who do we currently have employees that work with refugees, or is this okay?
Yes,
How
sir,
many?
we have a refugee program. So these 2 staff are going to be additions to that program. I believe in that program there's 3 nurses, 1 medical assistant, 1 supervisor. I forget the exact details, but there's like 3 or 4 people in that program. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us exactly what it is that you do with them, these folks?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of refugee resettlement, entities, Catholic Charities, and a few others that, help sort of people assimilate into our society as they are resettled into the country. And they bring these folks to public health for their first stop of, any kind of health care. A lot of times they've been sitting in refugee camps for 10, 20 years waiting to be resettled. And that's a broad generalization. Some are faster. But there's no health care at times, they've missed vaccinations at times, they might have basic things that we don't deal with, like, have parasitical infections or chronic conditions that are never taken care of, like they might have high blood pressure, diabetes that's never been taken care of. So the first stop is at public health to get them sort of situated, get them caught up on the basics like vaccinations, and then usually we connect them to health care, where they can actually find a medical home for all their chronic conditions and so forth.
How are they connected with you from the beginning?
These resettlement entities bring them to public health
Gotcha.
for the first checkup, if you will.
Okay, thank you. Those are the questions I had.
Is the advanced practice provider, is that a doctor, a PA,
It's a term we use interchangeably for a nurse practitioner or a PA. It used to be we only would hire NPs, but they were getting hard to find, so we tried both. It's a challenging market for healthcare, so
Sure.
we're broadening our scope.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Vinnie.
All right, if no other questions, do we have a motion on this item?
Move approval.
Or we have a motion to approve item G2. We have a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, cast your vote. All right, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, it will also be public health. Approval to apply for a grant. Item I1.
Yes, sir. So Public Health is requesting permission to, apply for a CDC Notice of Funding Opportunity titled Overdose Data to Action, and it's for limiting overdose through collaborative actions in localities. So the idea is that, we've seen a tremendous increase in overdose-related deaths for opioids. Y'all have been familiar. This topic has been coming up. Synthetic opioid use has been on the rise, even in Tarrant County, and we've seen an increase in number of deaths that are occurring related to that. So we have an effort that's a collaborative effort between us at Public Health, Tarrant County Sheriff's Department, Tarrant County Medical Examiner, MHMR of Tarrant County, and a few other nonprofit organizations and UNT Health Center. The idea is to collect data and then work collaboratively to drive action in our community to reduce these preventable deaths.
All right, there's several comments, public comments, that they don't wish to speak, but they sent them in. And so it's been referred to as a study. Would you call this a study?
Sort of. It's looking at data and then finding strategies within our community that will work and help prevent unnecessary deaths from opioids. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff is studying what is happening, but it's not a clinical study. It's not a trial of any sort. It's more like observational data and then finding strategies within the community.
It's not what I would refer to as your typical government study.
No, sir.
Hiring a company, paying them money to do a study. This is intended to figure out what to do to take action.
Correct, yes.
Okay, all right. Any questions or comments?
Move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve item I1. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Next up, purchasing.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Ms. Lake.
How are you? We have 4 items for your consideration. The first item is an award recommendation regarding bid number 2023-068 for criminal district court renovation, general contract work for facilities management, construction services, awarding to Falkenberg Construction Company. If approved, we're also requesting contract approval and acceptance of the payment and performance bonds.
Move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve item J1. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, it passes unanimously.
And
Next up, item 2.
The second item is regarding RFP number 2023-004. This is our annual contract for insurance eligibility software for public health. We're requesting rejection of all bids and revise the specifications. We only received 1 bid because the specs were too restrictive, so we're requesting permission to rebid.
Move to reject all bids and rebid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Item 3.
The third item is approval of the third amendment for RFP number 2021-123 for COVID-19 needs and resource assessment and related support for County Administrator's Office with Innovative Emergency Management Incorporation.
All right, I got several questions on this one. So am I reading this accurate that there are $650,000 in additional costs in this amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the total dollar amount is of the 9.4% administrative costs owed to IEM?
So let us help you out. Talk about. You all might remember that this is the program that we utilize for small business and to manage our small business program.
Kristen, the question is, what's the exact total dollar amount of this 9.4% administrative cost that we owe them?
That exact number I don't have off the top of my head. It is 9.4% of 18 million. 18 million is the estimated total awards that we have granted through the small business program. And that's the amount attributed to the overhead paid to IEM to run that program for us.
Have they administered more than 18 million?
No. So these this
And the whole 18 is not administered yet?
When has the last payment been sent? Yes, it has.
We're very
It's
close.
complete.
It's almost over.
Megan said the last payment was sent, yes.
Okay, so just reading the contract, and if we're already to the end, I mean, I guess it's probably moot at this point, but it's basically, it said you pay them an unspecified number of labor hours at unspecified fixed rates, but not to exceed 2.5 million. That was basically the contract. Since we're at the end here, I would say in the future, we should not have such an open-ended contract that gives them the ability to bill us up to 2.5 million at rates, and for what, we're not entirely sure. Y'all may have had a more firm grasp on it than what I can read from the contract, but the contract itself is incredibly open-ended and.
So let me, if I could, just provide a little bit more information on this. This particular program under ARPA, we received a substantial number of applications, and we worked with IEM. The fact that we administered $18 million worth of grant funds, there were a lot more requests than the $18 million. We had to continuously, working with the IEM, analyze the applications, try to ensure that there was no fraud, and there was some cases that we referred to the criminal district attorney's office on that, not part of the 18 million. We tried to cleanse all of those applications, which is a fairly tedious thing when you think about working with different groups, mainly over the internet, trying to call. I know our staffs were calling Monday through Friday, IEM staffs were calling Monday through Friday, continuously calling, and the amount of work it took simply to ensure that that the monies that we were going to be paying were being paid to legitimate businesses that actually qualified for the funding. So it took a lot more legwork and to get this thing done than we had originally anticipated.
Okay, thank you. I would just, in the future, when we enter into contracts, there should be a lot more specificity to it.
If I could add, there is a scope. Each time we have extended or increased the amount of this contract, there is additional information. I'm not sure if it's in your hand with that contract, but there is a scope of work that outlines the steps, the billable hours, and the anticipated number of hours per activity that feeds into the number that you're seeing. So you may just not have that information, but this is actually the $650,000 is $350,000 less that was budgeted as part of this overall project with IEM, and we just wanted to narrow down the amount a little bit better before bringing it to court.
And I'm assuming your department is the one that oversees IEM.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
What's the expected end date?
It's done.
It's done.
It's done. Yes, Megan just confirmed that the last payment went out.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion to approve the Third Amendment in this agreement. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. Any further discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, it passes unanimously.
And the fourth and last item is approval of amendment number 3 to the pricing schedule for RFP number 2021-132. This is our annual contract for Metropolitan Ethernet Software Redefined Network Services for Information Technology with AT&T.
So the term of this contract is 60 months. It seems like an awfully long time. Why 60 months?
Last question.
why is this a 5-year contract?
Why is it 5 years?
Yes.
5 years allowed us to lock in the best pricing option for ourselves. And because it's the same technology that we have as part of our core network. So it's not something that we would just quickly be able to walk away from. Those types of engagements, we always like to lock in the longest term that we can get for the lowest price we can squeeze out of AT&T and some of these other big providers.
But even though it is a 5-year contract, there are, I presume, out clauses that would allow us to terminate the contract for non-performance at any point.
Pretty much all of our contracts have those out clauses, 30 days notice, and in this particular one, I am not. Yes. Yes.
What exactly are they providing for us over the 5 years? So they own the network that we tap into, correct? And
Yes, our core network components, internet, all of those, the ability to go out internet, get, county departments, be able to do, have access to all the work that they need to do.
well, I know I've seen, throughout the nation with the expansion of broadband access and federal dollars being spent to build out fiber networks in both counties and municipalities, I've seen examples where counties and cities are actually building their own so that they're not having to contract with any large providers. They can actually charge folks to tap into their network because they're building their own fiber network. Is that something that we've explored, or are we just using what's always existed?
We, Your Honor, we actually do have our own fiber optic network here. The way that the internet works is different layers. We have pretty much all of Tarrant County's buildings, especially here in downtown. They're all connected by high-speed fiber optic networks.
That's not the question you're asking. You're asking if we build our own internet service and that we allow others to participate in.
Precisely.
The answer to that is we have not looked at that, but it is something that we might want to look at. I know that there's a significant amount of federal dollars now coming down, and we've worked with the city of Fort Worth to some extent with their ARPA funds to extend their networks, and we'll take this and we'll take a look.
Well, my perspective is, as we're developing the unincorporated areas of our county, and even retroactively going back into some of the areas that are underserved when it comes to fiber and broadband, it's easy when we're building streets to lay lines. It's easy to develop, as we're developing other infrastructure, just placing this in ourselves. And it does in some of these communities end up being cost neutral or actually very cost effective because they're charging back for the use of their fiber. It's no different than the county putting in water lines or the county putting in a road that the citizens are using. This is just the county putting in fiber and broadband access where if we're able to leverage federal dollars to do it, I don't know why we haven't explored it.
Now, we are currently attending meetings with the city of Fort Worth that they are the main organization in this region that are participating in the federal, funding for that. And there are several other cities, and we are actually participating in those meetings and exploring what options can be available to us. So we can come back and brief you.
I would suggest that instead of letting the city run it, that we kind of lead that dance and get involved.
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. We need to take a look at that and let us take it back and then do some analysis and bring it back to you.
Yeah, so here's the question, and if you don't know this, Chris, it's okay. I just want to know if you know, or whoever prepared the contract, maybe you'll know. If we were to go down that path, if we decided that's the direction we wanted to go, are we stuck in this contract for 5 years, or is one of those outs that's built in, does it allow us to get out of that contract if we were to do this?
Your Honor, so there's two things we're talking about here.
Okay.
Broadband internet is something different than the enterprise core network that we are dealing with. So we can break that down.
I understand what your question is. Let us come back. We'll take a dive into that contract. I will tell you, though, that as it relates to Commissioners Court actions, there's always a funding element because every year you have to approve monies to pay for this contract. So let's take that back. Also, I think we need to more clearly define to the court exactly what this particular service does. Because we connect all of our buildings. It's not just internet access as far as Wi-Fi. It's hardwire, and AT&T has been our contractor. But you've raised some very legitimate questions. Let us pull this down, bring it back to you next week, and also maybe provide some information on the issue that you addressed, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, J.K.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions before we?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
I would be concerned that we don't have the expertise.
Yes.
To build a broadband network. We build roads. We don't put in broadband. We don't put in water lines. We build roads.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have the expertise to build buildings, but we hire people to do it.
Right.
So.
But the suggestion is that we build this broadband system ourselves. And my concern is we don't have the expertise.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's a specialty. We pay people for a reason. I agree. This is.
Yeah, I think overall, if that's touching on my comment, Commissioner, the judge is absolutely correct. I'm not saying that our employees lay fiber lines. I'm suggesting that we explore grant opportunities with the federal government so the county can build out our own network using subcontractors like we do for everything else.
Yep, I think it's worth a look.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is really two different issues, and we'll bring back this contract next week for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Kim. I think that's it for you. Okay, next is the Sheriff's Department, approval to indemnify a loss and authorize the auditor to replenish the travel fund. Do we have something here?
Hello again. This, we're asking you to indemnify the sheriff on a loss that occurred when two separate extradition deputies had their vehicles burglarized. When the vehicles were burglarized, there was funds for their pending travel in the vehicles, and those funds were taken. One was $30 and one was $200, and they were victims of crime. I guess if we could control the crime, then I wouldn't have a job, but we're asking you to please release the sheriff from the responsibility of that $230 loss.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah. All right, any questions or discussion there? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, it passes unanimously. And apparently I said Kim to Michelle a second ago. I'm sorry about that. It's Michelle, sorry.
Alyssa.
What? I'm so frazzled. Melissa, I'm sorry. My apologies. All right, that's the Sheriff's Department. Next up is County Judge and Commissioners.
I have two interlocals for us today. One is in agreement with the City of White Settlement for the construction of asphalt overlay and new parking lot and facilities building. The second is an agreement with Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD to perform crack sealing, pothole patching. I would move for approval for items A, B, C, and D.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agreements in Commissioner Ramirez's district. Any discussion there? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Next up, we have board appointments. I think there is at least one to be made. Commissioner Fickus.
Yes, I would like to appoint Elisa Simmons, Commissioner, as an alternate member of the RTC, which is the Regional Transportation Council's part of the North Texas North Central Texas Council of Governments. And this will allow her to be present and act as a voting member when one of our regular members is not available.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to appoint Commissioner Simmons as alternate to the RTC. Please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Any other appointments to boards or commissions? All right, seeing none, move to approval of claims and addendum.
Move to approve the claims, including the addendum.
We have a motion to approve the claims, including the addendum. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, it passes unanimously. Next up, we have a briefing on the JPS Capital Improvement Program.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. South is going to introduce our speaker on this particular item.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. How are y'all? So this morning I want to introduce Derek Walls. Derek, if you'll come on up. Derek is with Broadus, and he's here to begin the presentation related to the central utility plant. You're also going to hear this referred to as the CUP. This is for the JPS Health Network 2018 Capital Improvement Program, and Derek's going to give kind of a brief history of the bond program and kind of how we got to where we are today. And then he will introduce the Jacobs team to actually discuss the CUP in further detail.
Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. Also, I represent the Broadus Levis team. We're a joint venture, and Monica Bailey Jackson is here with me today. What I'm going to do is just give you kind of a brief overview of the bond program from the master plan perspective, and then we'll have the Jacobs team come up. So the slide that I'm looking at right now, it's in front of you, is an aerial of the existing JPS campus. And just to highlight a few things about this, just to get you oriented, we're basically kind of hovering over Magnolia, looking southeast, looking at the campus, the various buildings at the existing campus. I also want to make mention that part of the master plan is the Medical Home Southwest, which is a great project. It's a clinic that's not at the main campus, but that is very much a part of the master plan. We won't see it on the slide today, but just wanted to highlight that particular project. The campus is kind of bisected by Main Street, and that's running north and south. Just where you see we call it a greenfield area. It's where you see kind of the large green area with the running path, walking path. That was the old St. Joseph's hospital site, and so that's where the new hospital is going to go. So I'm going to flip over to the next slide, and that's going to show you where the facilities are going, and I'll also give you an update on where we are on those particular projects today. So this is the master plan that illustrates several projects. I'm going to start with the ones that are currently under construction. And so over on the far right, you see TSP, that stands for the Trinity Springs Pavilion. That's the Behavioral Health Inpatient Hospital. The PEC that's shown there is the Psychiatric Emergency Center, and that project is currently under construction. And that project is scheduled to be completed in Q1 of '25. And so that's a very significant project, as you well know if you're familiar with the behavioral health services at JPS, to provide that psychiatric emergency center. Next, the parking garage, which is along Magnolia Street and the MOB, that's another project that we are in the design phase right now on that particular project, and that's scheduled to be completed in Q4 of '25. In preparation for that, if you go to the campus right now, where I showed you that greenfield area, that is currently temporary parking. And that is needed because where you see the MOB and the parking garage are adjacent to JPOC, which is the clinic buildings at JPS, so we're going to be having to displace that parking and some other areas, so that temporary parking is currently under construction.
Derek, what does MOB stand for?
Medical office building, yeah, thanks. Yeah, the medical office building will be a new medical office building, and it will also have the new ambulatory surgery center. It's for outpatient surgeries. It'll have an outpatient imaging center. It'll have a lab and several other services along with the clinic space in the medical office building. And then it looks like a little sliver on the plan here, but where you see the new patient towers going up, the one that's on the right, the building that's adjacent to is the pavilion. And the very significant project is that kind of a sliver of a project, but that's going to be the connector. We call it the North Pavilion expansion. And that project will be the connector to the new hospital, but it also is going to address some significant issues in the emergency department, the current emergency department in the pavilion, as well as surgery. So that's really it's going to be a challenging project, but a very integral project. And then the central utility plant, the CUP, as we call it, is again a major cornerstone of the bond program, because it's going to serve the energy plant for all of the new buildings, as well as it's going to backfill into the pavilion. So that's what we're here today, is to talk about that project and the engineering and architectural services associated with that building. And lastly is the new patient tower that you see. There's 2 towers with a diagnostic and treatment is kind of the plinth of those 2 buildings. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. If not, then I would like to bring up folks from Jacobs. And I've got Casey Ryman, and he's with Jacobs. And I've got Derwin Broughton, and he is from KAI, and they're the design team for the central utility plant.
Before they come, let me just say to the court that the reason we're getting this presentation this morning is because the court picked out major components of the bond program over which we wanted to have some say over who performed the contract. The central utilities plant is one of those projects that we picked out that we wanted to be able to interview the respondents and have some input over who's selected. In this particular case, there was only one firm being recommended from the Board of Managers, and that's Jacobs. But I didn't see any reason to deviate from the process just because there was only one firm. We still need to be able to hear from them and to weigh in with our opinion.
Thank you.
Good morning, or should I say almost afternoon. Hello, my name is Casey Ryman. I'm project manager for Jacobs Engineering, and I'll serve as the project manager for the central utility plant. I really personally want to thank Judge O'Hara and the commissioners for the opportunity to be here and present to you today. Our team is really excited about this. We're a very local team that we put together who all have a vested interest in the community, and really excited for this project to come through. This central utility plant, or CUP, you'll probably hear me refer to a couple times. It's an outstanding opportunity to develop a facility that will be really at the forefront of innovation, offering a robust and a resilient solution that can be really seen as a flagship in the industry and a flagship and a model for healthcare facilities across the U.S. As I mentioned, Derwin Broughton with KAI is my partner in crime. And he'll be assisting us with some of the architectural building components for the architecture and engineering firm. And I'll have him come up and speak in a little bit about some of those program elements related to the central utility plant. So the central utility plant will truly be, and I apologize for the analogies for the healthcare folks, it's going to be the heart of the campus, right? It's really intended to be a centralized location to produce distributed chilled water, power, and hot water to the campus-wide. It's an essential cornerstone for reliability and resiliency. As we've seen with some of the impacts to Winter Storm Uri, resiliency has been a critical factor across the state of Texas and also across the U.S. And this is a great opportunity for JPS and Tarrant County to take advantage of some of the opportunities and technology to prevent incidents like that occurring again. As I mentioned, centralized location. So Jacobs came on last year and we performed a feasibility analysis to determine what is the best conceptual concept for this facility. After rigorous evaluation, we determined that there's an opportunity for approximately 5 megawatts of co-generated power. And when I say co-generation, that means it's essentially it's a combustion engine that takes advantage of some of the exhaust temperatures of the engine to use that in the system to produce utilities for the hospital. And within that utility component, also 9,000 tons of chilled water will serve the hospital current and future needs to address any conditioning requirements set forth. As required for a level 1 trauma center that JPS currently is, it's going to be required to be resilient. So this solution is going to be fully redundant and resilient, offering N+1 redundancy for all systems involved to ensure that in a major emergency event that the hospital does not lose its critical services, as it's a priority for the state. And within the cogeneration, so the idea of the 5 megawatts is that essentially it's going to be running in parallel to the Texas grid, which means it's going to be operating 24/7, 365 for opportunities to offset some of their electrical purchases, as well as be able to quickly to adapt in an emergency situation to essentially called microgrid, right, or isolate from the Texas grid in the event of emergency to make sure that they maintain operations. In addition, based on our study, we determined that there's probably an operational savings of probably approximately $1 million annually, and reduce the carbon footprint by 2,000 tons over a standard central utility plant. So there's big advantages there. Also, some exciting things about opportunities for this project is, if you guys are aware of the Inflation Reduction Act funding, there has been some stuff that's been passed down by the federal government related to energy technologies or new energy technologies, and that we're happy to say that based on the current information that's provided today, we do believe that the design will qualify for some of those credits, which they have actually just made a change to, that they can be direct paid to non-taxable entities. So that's a very major, big opportunity for JPS and Tarrant County.
Question.
Yes.
The reason we're building a new central utility plant is because the one we've currently got is not big enough to handle all of the expansion on the central campus. How much excess capacity will we be getting from this new central utility plant to handle future expansion of the campus?
Yeah, so when we performed our technical analysis and evaluation, that was the main critical factor in deciding the sizing and selection of the equipment. And so we looked at all the current existing load profile data for the hospital as it exists today, and also looked at the projected loads of the new buildings that are coming online, that are going to be coming online for the next decade or so, and based and developed models to assure that there's efficient energy utilities provided to each of those buildings and hospitals for current and future state uses.
Well, my question specifically goes to projects that may come online after this bond program. We don't want to have to expand the central utility plant every time we build a new building. Is there enough capacity to handle future growth outside of the bond program?
Yes, yeah, so there's going to be additional capacity available at the central utility plant, not to mention when there's going to be opportunities and additional space within the central utility plant to offer new equipment and space to grow as the campus grows. It's a challenge when you start adding additional buildings and adding load, because the more equipment you bring on, it can essentially become less efficient. And so you want to make sure that you're scaling and sizing as your campus grows to maximize the efficiency of the utility plant to optimize those savings. Very good question.
Yep.
Yes.
Does the old plant go away? This takes its place. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Is this plant big enough to cover the entire campus today?
Right. So yeah. So there's two current central utility plants that are on the campus. One that supports the main hospital, and another one that supports the pavilion building. Both of those utility plants will be decommissioned, and the new central utility plant will replace both of those assets and be able to support the entire campus. The idea is that the existing pavilion central utility plant will be renovated to add additional emergency generators to ensure that they have power reliability to meet the level 1 trauma center requirements. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Okay, well, I'll turn it over to Derwin to talk about some of the other components of the central utility plan of the cover.
Thank you, Casey. Just a couple items of quick note as far as this is a little bit beyond just being a central utility plant. There's also some core infrastructure going into this facility that's going to support the entire campus. This will also house your data center, which houses all the servers for the entire campus as well. In addition, we'll also have some administrative support space and administrative office space within this building. So we refer to it as a cup, much bigger than a cup. It's going to provide the necessary infrastructure to support the entire campus.
Great. So now that we kind of covered what the plant looks like, we'll talk a little bit about our teams and qualifications. So I think we're proud to say that our team is 80% local with a vested interest in our community. This is a really important project for Tarrant County, and we're really excited to be on it. And in addition to this, we've also brought a team that is exceeding the 25% MWBE requirement. We've worked with a lot of these firms in the past, and so there's a lot of great synergies that we're going to be taking forward to this, and a lot of the experience that we've all had on JPS campus currently. And so we're really excited to be that, and we've really established great relationships with everybody, and looking forward to working with everyone. So talking about some of our early engagement with some of our members on our team, we've been involved. Jacobs has been involved in the cogeneration study for the past year, but KAI has also been very active on the JPS campus with some of the other projects within the bond program. And similarly, TMP has been working on some of the civil site-wide developments for the campus. So we're really bringing a team that understands the campus, understands the complexities that are involved with this project, and can deliver seamlessly. So a little bit about Jacobs and our cogen and central energy plan experience. So our energy and power practice has been around for about 30 plus years. And in those 30 years, we've developed over 50 cogeneration projects, 25 of them which all serve healthcare facilities similar to this one. This kind of outlines a matrix of some of the past projects that we have seen that are of similar scope and scale of this JPS central utility plant. Some of which are Baylor Scott and White, University of Texas Austin. There's also some UT medical centers as well, and the University of Minnesota. And granted that a lot of the university campuses are provided, they also support healthcare facilities, and so they have the same requirements, stringent requirements, as you're going to see on this facility as well.
Hope you don't have anything at the University of Miami.
Nothing at University of Miami, unfortunately. In addition to the cup, as we mentioned, it's a much bigger building. Jacobs is also the #1 design center firm in the U.S., according to ENR, when we provided almost 6.6 gigawatts of data center space to several of our private and public clients, and are looking forward to providing a similar service for JPS. So just to wrap it up in summary, I think this project really directly aligns with JPS's mission to transform the healthcare delivery for the communities that they serve. And by providing a resilient, efficient, sustainable solution that's truly going to be at the forefront of innovation and see as a flagship in the healthcare industry. This is a great opportunity that Tarrant County can be involved with, and it's going to be a tremendous project to reduce the carbon footprint and improve the efficiency of the hospital campus. And so with that, I would like to thank you and open up to any additional questions you might have.
You're confident we can flip the switch in 2025?
It's going to be a challenge, but we're going to work expeditiously to figure out ways that we can deliver the project on time.
We at Tarrant County have a long history with Jacobs, and we know them well. They know us.
We just want to know why you moved.
That's right.
We have full confidence.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Do we need to take an action?
Not today. This is simply a briefing.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a briefing on Tarrant County Criminal Courts. Mr. Shugart.
As Greg comes forward, this is going to be a report. You might remember we contracted with the National Center for State Courts to do an analysis on both of our criminal district courts and also our county criminal courts as far as workflow. And we've got those reports back now. We've asked Mr. Shugart to brief the court on those two particular items.
And I'm under the bold assumption my PowerPoint will eventually be pulled up. I'd like to start by saying thanks for this opportunity to brief the courts. As you know, it's very difficult for the courts to tell their story because by nature, we're not advocates. We sit in the middle and have to make decisions, so we appreciate this opportunity. As you know, as GK just stated, the used ARPA funds to fund 2 reports with the National Center for State Courts. It was a felony report and a misdemeanor report. All the stakeholders were interviewed. This included the judges, even the judicial candidates at the time, the CDA candidates, members of the defense bar, and the court staff, and including the CCA staff. And the case data was analyzed to determine where we stood. The goal of the report from the court's perspective was to create roadmaps, because we have a whole bunch of new judiciary coming in, and to have the national standards come and look at our systems and our processes. To set the table for y'all, we see over 60,000 charges of magistrated a year that come through the system. An average over the last 4 years, about 24,000 new misdemeanor cases, an average of about 18,000 new felony cases. We have 10 misdemeanor courts, we have 11 felony courts. It's important to realize that 10 of those judges are starting their new term. So as we're setting a new tradition, a new local legal custom with brand new judges, it's to make sure we give the court some grace as we're trying to find our way and move forward. To give you an idea where we are today, I don't know if y'all can read that, but one of the biggest concerns of having this report was the backlog caused by COVID and the backlog of cases coming in. And this is a very simple data report that basically shows the clearance rate for both the district courts and the misdemeanor courts are above 100%. That's a very simple stat that means that we are getting rid of more cases that are coming in, which means the judges are addressing the backlog of cases. And so that's an important step. So the judges are working and are moving cases forward. What the report recommended was more leadership and guidance and governance, a commitment to case flow practices, technology utilization, and case flow performance measures. These are, one of the interesting things when you have a national consultant come in, they kind of tell you what you know, but they get you to focus on what's important for you. Where we are today, the judges formed a docketing committee, which is probably meeting in the next 15, 20 minutes, that includes members of the judiciary, members of the state, and members of the defense bar. They're proposing a plan to make sure that the use of court time is most efficient as possible and not have attorneys scattered throughout the 21 different courts simultaneously. we're examining our caseload practices, looking at processes, looking at what actually moves the case, and looking at that. We're simplifying nomenclature. One of the challenges when you have 21 independent elected judiciary, each court calls something different, and we're trying to simplify it to do standards between all the courts. And we're going to leverage TechShare Court for measurements. We have, as you all are very much aware, we have an archaic mainframe system that we were replacing. We'll be able to have, with more data points, to be able to use measurements to be able to see the performance of the courts. Long term, we're going to try to change the organizational culture. One of the issues that the judges really want to come back is to show leadership, and one of those leadership items is the National Center calls for the convening of a criminal justice committee that is chaired by a judge, because ultimately everything that flows through the criminal justice system goes in front of a judge at that time. So we want to change the organizational culture and continue to work with communications. They also want to continue to monitor and measure, particularly with the new software. As you know, the standard, you can't improve what you can't measure, you can't manage what you can't measure, and with new data points, you're able to examine case flow. Ultimately, too, we want to update judicial dashboards. We have 2 dashboards that are out there right now. The data gets confusing based due to being part of the mainframe, part of TechShare Court. So we want to update the judicial dashboard so they're consistent with the new TechShare Court. Not really much else going on, but we really appreciate the funding and the opportunity to look into these type of costs, because as you know, the courts do not have the ability to appropriate funds, tax, or anything else, so we depend on the gratitude of Commissioners Court to fund our needs.
Are the measures that the judges are taking on their own to decrease the backlog, are those efforts consistent with the recommendations of this report?
Yes, sir. The National Center recommends what they call core tools, the core tools and those measures, and we plan on implementing those. You'll follow through so you can, through proper measurement, you can become a high-performing court and to be able to see the case flow.
In your discussions with the consultants, where was our performance as a county in relation to the others across the nation?
Well, as always, I believe that Tarrant County has one of the most efficient court systems in the country. But if you compare, particularly when we participated in, not with just the center, but when we went down to the Office of Court Administration, held a statewide case flow management studies, and when you use their backlog indicators that were provided, we were in much better shape. Are we where we want to be? The answer is no. But we actually worked during the pandemic and moved things through. And as you can see with the clearance rate, we're not just treading water. We're working our way upstream.
Excellent. Good job.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Shugart? Okay. Thank you, sir.
And we'll make sure that that all the court members get a copy of both of those reports so you can review them.
All right. Next up on the agenda, announcements and comments. GK, 2 things for you. Number 1, when are we having our TechShare briefing?
We are scheduling that for the 18th.
Okay, 2nd of April. And then can we place...
I'm sorry, the 18th of April.
Yeah, I meant the second meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, second meeting. Then when it comes to the agenda, can you put that on next, just a briefing discussion on next agenda, just so we can talk about the agenda, when we get it, best practices, how we can make sure we're using time properly.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's all I have. Anybody have any announcements or comments? Okay, seeing none, we do have one person signed up to speak to public comments. Mr. Bennett.
Judge O'Hare, prior to public comment, going back to United Way recognitions at the beginning of court, there was no action taken on that item, and the court may wish to receive and file those.
Okay.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file. Please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. All right, Mr. Bennett.
Judge O'Hare, Commissioners, what I'm about to share with you and ask you to do is something that's near and dear to my heart. In 2018, Whit Wyatt, a Colleyville council attorney, under the guidance of Richard Newton, directed him to do a resolution that changed the way we vote for the Appraisal District Board of Directors. I went to 65 different taxing entities to get this passed. I had 8 pass it. I did it as an individual. Because Mayor Newton asked Jeff Law, our chief appraiser, to put it to the taxing entities for a vote. And he said, nowhere in the property tax code am I directed to do any such thing. So he told Mayor Newton, have a good day. So it was left up to me to do that, which I proudly did it. Now I can tell you the circumstances behind why I did that. But one of the reasons when I ran in 2017 was that the small taxing entities are not being represented by this process. This process is antiquated. There's building restrictions all over this county because of the base. And there'll never be growth in tax revenue to increase the voice of some of the smaller entities. So what I'd like this court to do is develop an ad hoc committee to meet after May 6th to speak about how we can change the way we appropriate our votes throughout the county. Now, you say, well, is this allowed? Yes. 6.031 allows this. That's why I took that resolution all over the county and went to 65 different taxing entities.
What is the name of it?
It's under property, it's 6.031. Well, you can change the method for casting ballots. On this committee, I want the smaller entities to be represented. I want Mayor Halsey, Haslett, Mayor Jacob, Lakeside, Mayor Tron, Haltom City, Desiree Thomas, MISD trustee, Becky St. John's of Grapevine Colleyville ISD, former Mayor Newton, Fred Campos, HEB ISD. Unfortunately, Dr. Curtis Amos passed away in 2021, but Ms. Donaldson, who's now superintendent of Urban ISD, I would like her to be on that board, and Mayor Billy Davis of Crowley. And I'd be honored if Ms. Simmons, Commissioner Simmons would be on that committee also. This will give better representation to Crowley ISD, Forest Hill, Everman, River Oaks, Castleberry, Benbrook, Lake Worth, Sampson Park, Westover Hills don't even get a vote. I mean, they get 3 votes. West Worth doesn't get any votes. We can meet in May. You have to have a resolution to the taxing entity and approved by August 15th. There's time after the elections to get this done. And I already have just 15 more seconds. This is what I would like to see. Maintain the system we have. Expand the board to 7 from 5 and have 2 at-large seats. Have an at-large ballot and your regular ballot. Every entity gets 1 vote on the at-large. So that causes the smaller entities to be as powerful as the larger entities. And then after we run the election normally, after September 1st, nominations, we get the normal ballot and the at-large ballot. The chief appraiser will assemble the ballot as he's supposed to. Nominations are supposed to be by October 15th. The ballot is supposed to be to the entities by October 31st, and you cast your ballots between October 31st and December 15th, then are compiled and seated January 1st. That's the process. And I'm asking you to consider
Thank you.
it. Thank you so much.
All right, he's the only person signed up to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak during public comments? All right, seeing none, I just have a quick request, and that is there are people watching at home, people on the video. When I go to read this statement, I know it's old hat for most of you in this room, but I don't want to have to yell over it. So if you'll allow me to say it, please remain seated and quiet while I do it, and then you're welcome to make all the noise in the world you want. All right, the Commissioners Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempt under sections 551, 071, 072, 074, 076, 087, and 0725 of the Texas Government Code. We are now recessed. You're going to Austin tomorrow? You didn't come to the Tarrant County days.
No, I didn't.
That was packed.
I had a 3-hour MRI.
Are we good?
Three MRIs over a 3-hour period.
On?
My liver.
Oh, goodness. Just check up.
You good?
Don't know yet. I hope so.
You're good.
All right, we are back from executive session. There's no action to be taken at this time, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second from Commissioner Fickus. All in favor, please cast your votes. All right, passes unanimously. We are adjourned.